Hey, how's it going, guys? Kids See Ghosts is arguably Kanye West's and Kid Cudi's best album. 7 years after its release, I believe it still holds up in Kanye's discography, and an important statement on not just Kanye, but Kid Cudi's mental health struggles. Today, I want to do a sort of interpretation or somewhat of an analysis on this album, as I believe that it is an important landmark album that addresses or raises mental health awareness. Also, I just want to give a quick disclaimer. I am not a music critic, nor do I claim to be, just an average guy who really enjoys talking about music and the importance of raising mental health awareness. And these are simply my opinions and thoughts on the album. I am not a therapist or a qualified individual. Also, I will solely focus on the music, not on the public figures themselves. Now, if you're not familiar with the actual album itself, I strongly encourage you listen to it. I think it's a phenomenal hip-hop album. Kids See Ghosts was a collaborative hip-hop duo consisting of Kanye West and Kid Cudi, which the album is named after, so self-titled. Now, admittedly, I didn't do too much research on how the actual album came to be, considering how Kanye and Kid Cudi have collaborated quite a bit in the past throughout their careers. So I kind of made sense that it was only a matter of time for them to do a joint project together. It is a well-known fact that both Ye and Kid Cudi have struggled with mental health. You know, Kanye West, of course, his bipolar disorder is pretty well known, and Cudi as well struggling with depression. They both have openly talked about it in interviews and in their music. In my opinion, Kids See Ghosts is the culmination and mainstream approach to mental health. And I think for those reasons, it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability for these two to really be open about their struggles in such a way. In a lot of ways, it's very empowering and uplifting for such mainstream artists to do such a thing. It isn't very common in the mainstream music space, so to speak. Now, as for the album itself, both artists complement one another very well on the album. Cudi, Cudi has a majestic singing voice, along with Kanye's what I like to call insanity raps, quote unquote. The production is absolutely amazing, with an almost hypnotic feel throughout. Many have described its soundscape as psychedelic. I can certainly hear that throughout the album. So, enough talking about the album. We're going to go track by track, and towards the end of the video, I'll give my general thoughts on the album and more or less ideas. I will not include any audio in this video due to copyright reasons. Okay, so we start off the album with Feel the Love. The song starts off with Cudi stating, well, I can still feel the love, almost as if he feels the love surrounding him. Pusha T's verse can be interpreted as him boasting. In my opinion, his verse really doesn't add too much to the song. You could interpret it as an attack on Kid Cudi, or perhaps Pusha T flexing on him, or it could be Pusha T could embody critics, you could say, in a way. Kanye also has no verse, but rather him making these gunshot sounds complemented by drums that sound like shots being fired. And I think that's essentially what Kanye West is trying to do with his quote-unquote verse, if you could even call it that. People online interpret Ye attacking Cudi with his words, or attacking him, right, by making verbal gunshot sounds. Cudi continues to affirm himself with love surrounding him despite the gunshots and chaos on the track that persists. And I think the important thing with this track is that self-affirmations are quite powerful. The song is absolutely amazing and probably my favorite one on the whole album. The next track is Fire. This song begins with Ye taking a stand against any haters. Cody's verse also sees him addressing haters, but opens on a more somber note, you could say, saying how he struggled to move past his mistakes. Could also be implying his depression, maybe he struggles to move past it. Song ends on Cudi singing about stars he's left behind and him asking heaven to lift me up or lift him up. Very, very powerful. Song seems to be both Ye and Cudi asking to be forgiven despite their mistakes, addressing heaven, which could also be a sort of entente to mean fans, overcoming hardships and challenges or hate while moving on. The hate and scars could be seen as their personal demons, or also could represent their mental health struggles. The next track, one of the more popular songs on the album, Fourth Dimension. The song starts off with a Louis Prima sample. I believe that's how you say his name. It's a really old song from 1936, so a very interesting sample. Now, this could be implying something good is coming the duo's way, has an almost otherworldly sound to it. Now, the previous two tracks also have this sort of interesting hypnotic sound to it, but this one I think it's much more apparent. It has an almost ghostly sound, which I think is very intentional. Ye's verse seems to be implying how sex has this hypnotizing effect on him, even stating, putting him in the wrong hole. Now, could be a statement on Ye's struggle with lust, perhaps. I think this is the most likely interpretation. Cudi's verse also seems to be implying his struggles with lust as well. As famous as they are exposed to many women, of course, being ultra rich, famous rappers as they are. Even Cudi states his soul is not for sale. I interpret the song as a spiritual, maybe even mental battle against lust and sin, which are often correlated with one another. Now, a particular verse I really like on this song is one of Cudi's verses where he says, "Such a lost boy, caught up in the darkest I had. What's the cost, boy? Losing everything I had." Could imply he's losing a part of himself by indulging in sinful behavior. And I think this is very personal for him to say, and on a lot of levels, I think it's incredibly relatable. Now we move on to Free with 4 E's, or Ghost Town Part 2. Now Ghost, the first part, was on Ye's previous album, which is, the album is just called Ye. That's a very popular song as well. If you haven't heard it, I also strongly encourage you guys to check that one out. Now, this song starts with a quote by black nationalist Marcus Garvey. He seems to be talking about self-mastery and full knowledge of oneself in a sort of meditative kind of way. A sequel from, well, as I stated earlier, this is a sequel to Ghost Town from the previous one. This is also a great follow-up track. Now, an interesting thing is the singing on this album, "And nothing hurts me anymore, I feel kind of free," says free 4 times in the refrain, same number of E's in the title of the track. This could be intentional. I just thought it was an interesting observation. Now, Mr. West's verse seems to be him singing alongside Ty Dolla $ign, saying how they feel free in unison. Cudi and Ye are moving past constant criticism and reinforce Garvey's quote on self-mastery is how I interpret this. The song reminds me of Fire in a lot of ways, as well as the opening track with more self-affirmations, which is seems to be a prominent theme throughout the album. Trying to be yourself despite your shortcomings, right? Okay, so the next track, Reborn. You could argue this is the best track on the album. Now, this song starts with Cudi singing about pushing forward, even doubting himself at times with the line, "Which way do I go?" You can sort of hear it in the background of his singing, but repeats the line over and over as to remind himself to keep persevering. Now, reborn here is a sort of metaphor for transforming from who you were previously, is how I take that line. The chorus rather. Mr. West's verse is very vulnerable here, probably the most vulnerable he is on the entire album, rapping how he feels drained, called insane, engulfed in shame. Both artists are deeply personal here, addressing their mental health struggles at the forefront, but also reflecting on the growth and transition that they have gone through. Kid Cudi trying to move past his drug addiction is the main thing that pops into my mind here. Cudi's depression, and then Ye's bipolar disorder. Now, the next track is probably one of the more interesting ones. The song is called Kids See Ghosts. Now, this song actually starts with Yasin Bey, who, if you don't know, is a legendary rapper, also known as Mos Def. He's famous for the album Black on Both Sides, singing Kids See Ghosts sometimes. Almost sounds like there's a UFO in the background here going on. Cudi's verse appears very introspective, kind of seeking answers within, running for the truth, but tired from running, ending on he can hear angels coming. Mr. West's verse seems to be his struggles with fame and his attitude towards other rappers, perhaps his competition or his peers. Now, this entire track could be seen as a symbolic attempt to tap into this childlike enthusiasm. You could also interpret the spirits that's referenced as their issues, right? Their mental health issues, but they're also trying to use their mental health issues or their spirits, right, as this inspiration. This is just my interpretation on the self-titled duo, just overall. Bey's singing, to me anyway, seems to be confirming this belief, and Kanye's verse as well. What's a crown to the clouds seems to reinforce this. Now, for the final track, and also a beautiful send-off to the album, or closing to the album, Cudi Montage. Cudi's opening here, again, seems to be a significant struggle with depression, addressing and asking the Lord to save him, even implying how he's becoming stronger by persevering past his depression. Ye's verse is more of a commentary on the cycle of violence brought about by gang mentality. Ye's verse also seems to be the statement on the self-destructive nature that it causes, and how his quote, both sides lose somebody. When I first heard the song, I originally interpreted the song was about self-deleting, but after digging into the lyrics, it doesn't seem to be the case, and I was actually wrong about this. The song also samples a guitar riff from Kurt Cobain's Burn the Rain track. He's even credited on the song as well. Now, I just want to give my final thoughts on the album. And I'm going to be completely honest, I really was not a Kanye West fan until I actually heard this album. It completely changed my perspective on him and his music. I didn't realize how much, after listening to this album so many times, Cudi really carries this album, I believe. Both are incredibly vulnerable and introspective throughout, with many religious references. In many ways, this is a very Christian hip-hop album, you could say. And the link between mental health struggles and religion is a very interesting subject. On a more personal level, therapy actually helped me become Christian. So that really resonates with me. The album does a great job at bringing awareness to mental health in a mainstream manner, especially from such a famous figures who people idolize, of course. Both have, I don't think it's any surprise, but West and Cudi are very controversial figures. They continue to be. And it's unfortunate that we'll probably never see a Kids See Ghosts 2, which does make me sad. Now, this video took a lot of time to make, and I really hope that you guys enjoy it. I'm open to any criticism as long as it's constructive, so please be respectful as well. Now, this album holds up as a masterpiece, in my opinion, and an important project for both artists. Again, I'm just going to reiterate that these are just my opinions. Music is, again, largely very subjective, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about the album and some of your own interpretations. Now, I'm just going to read this quote from Apple Music that I think perfectly sums up this album. Now, I quote, "Kids See Ghosts is the fireside therapy session occurring at its base. Both have dealt with controversy and mental illness throughout their intertwined careers." And I just want to conclude the video here. And I use Genius.com and Apple Music for research, and all of the pictures you see in this video were taken from Google Images. So just wanted to clarify that. And again, if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Now, I hope you all have a wonderful day and stay safe.